Welcome everyone to my webinar. I am Joanne, Shearer, Parkin, registered dietitian and nutritionist. And today I'm going to be talking to you about carbohydrates and weight management, the good, the bad, and the ugly. So carbohydrates have really been top of the news and when it comes to weight management for many years. In fact, they have really been denigrated and the culprit behind our epidemic of overweight and obesity. I think, in the modern press, social media, it's all about sugar, 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 right? Carbs are bad, sugar, sugar. What I'm going to talk to you today about is that not all carbohydrates are bad. In fact, some are absolutely essential. And we'll be talking a lot, and I will be talking a lot about the benefits of specific carbohydrates for your gut microbiome, because if you have a good, healthy gut microbiome, that can help you with your weight management. So today, when it comes to carbohydrates, I'm planning to separate the wheat from the chaff, right? When it comes to the carbs, let's not throw the baby out with the bathwater. So lots of little puns in there, right, to get you started today. So let's talk about the good carbs. The good carbs are those that are nutrient dense, high in fiber, and with a low glycemic index. So let's talk about low glycemic index and what does that mean? All carbohydrates make blood sugar, or I'm going to call it blood glucose. So whether it's potatoes, whether it's whole grain bread, whether it's beans and lentils, oatmeal, sugar, all of those carbohydrates get broken down and get absorbed into your bloodstream as glucose, right? So this is another reason why carbohydrates have been in the popular press and the media and all, been talked extensively about in nutrition for years, is because we do have an epidemic of diabetes in our country. And so that really is a big concern. So when it comes to both managing blood sugar and your weight, choosing those carbohydrates that have that low glycemic index, those carbohydrates are more slowly absorbed into your bloodstream. So you don't get that spike of blood sugar after a meal. That spike in blood sugar is going to trigger the release of insulin from your pancreas. That can drop your blood sugar. 2 hours later, you're going to feel hungry again. You're going to want to eat. So eating certain specific carbohydrates that are very high fiber and low in the glycemic index can help avoid that. So what are those? Well, old-fashioned rolled oats and barley. Beans and lentils are particularly low on the glycemic index. They're high in carbs, but they're very low glycemic index. Some of your fruits, such as apples, are lower on the glycemic index. And if you want to know and want a list of those, I will be posting those to a couple of the Facebook pages. One is Biohacking to a Better Life, and I will post a list of those so you can choose the lower glycemic index. And what you find that these low glycemic index carbohydrates all have in common is that they're high in fiber. Now, choosing a variety of foods that are high in a diversity of fibers is one of the key concepts for having a good, healthy gut microbiome. Your gut microbiome is the sum of all the bacteria, the viruses, and the fungi that reside within your gut. We are learning, and this is just like a huge topic in nutrition and science and medicine, is about how a healthy gut microbiome can help to protect your brain, plays a role in mental health, chronic illnesses, all kinds of health benefits of having a healthy gut microbiome. I call the gut microbiome the organ that you didn't know that you have. That's right in your gut. More DNA in your gut than the rest of your body. So how important it is to feed your healthy, your gut. Now, another thing you can do is you can choose also foods that are high in prebiotic fibers. So what are prebiotic fibers? Prebiotic fibers are non-digestible fibers that your healthy gut microbes will feed on. And that will help to promote the good gut guys, I call them, the good microbes that are microbes that are in your gut. And they will populate, they will crowd out the bad guys in there, right? And another thing that happens when those microorganisms feed on the prebiotic fibers, they produce something called short-chain fatty acids. Those short-chain fatty acids are anti-inflammatory. They protect the lining of your gut. They help to prevent leaky gut. They also help to promote the production of anti-hunger hormones. And, so this is so critically important for your overall health, for your weight management. Now, some of the foods that are highest in prebiotic fiber, I'm going to read them, top 10. Chicory root, dandelion greens, Jerusalem artichokes, garlic and onions, asparagus, bananas, barley, oats, and apples. Those are the top 10. Now, I'm looking at this list and I'm thinking, really, there's probably, I only eat probably half of these on a regular basis. And some of you may not hardly eat those at all. So here's another option. And this is from LifeVantage, called it just Physique Prebiotic. It's a combination of 4 different prebiotic fibers, plus some L-amino acids. So the prebiotic fibers in here, again, they're going to get into your gut. They're going to promote the population of all those good microorganisms in your gut, right? There's also something in here called L-amino acids. Those L-amino acids attach to taste receptors in your gut and also can help with appetite control. So what a great thing to add to your diet, a scoop of this every day. I am loving this. This has really been great for my gut. I have had gut issues my whole life. And I'm finding that this has been one of the biggest strategies and helps for me and for my healthy gut. So I hope it'll help you too. So those of you that are watching this webinar, I invite you to get back to the person who invited you and find out about how you can order this, right? How do you get this and how can you start taking it? So that's the good carbs. So let's go on and move on to the bad. These are kind of in the middle. They're not like the ugly, which I'll be talking about a little bit. These are so-so, not so great, right? That would be particularly any refined processed carbohydrates, such as white flour, white rice, pasta made with white flour. But now that is kind of the bad news. And I think that, there's so many options now that you can choose instead of these processed white refined carbohydrates. I'm thinking, excuse me, I'm thinking for breads. Sourdough bread has a lower glycemic index. And if you choose a 100% whole grain sourdough, that is going to be good for your gut. And it's going to slow down the absorption of the carbohydrates into your bloodstream, right? There's something called postbiotics in that sourdough bread that's also very good for your gut. So many health benefits of sourdough. Also, the sourdough process, if it's extended over 12 hours or more, it helps to increase the digestibility of the protein and the carbohydrates, and it also improves the absorption of your minerals. Wow, who would have thought, right? Sourdough bread, I would actually put that, if it's 100% whole grain sourdough bread, I would put that more into the good carbs category. But if it's white processed refined, and another thing too about a lot of the breads that you buy off the store shelves have some additives in there that are causing some gut problems for some people. So just some ideas about how to choose the better breads, I guess I would say. Now on pasta, love this. Lentil pastas or pastas made from chickpeas. These are extremely high fiber. They also are higher in protein as well. These are a great choice. So this would be in the good carbs category. So not all pastas are bad. So these are gluten-free. I try to follow a pretty strict gluten-free diet, and I love these. And they cook up kind of al dente. They're great. Another thing is honey. Honey is actually, depending on whether it's raw or refined, I consider raw honey to be more in that good carb category. The refined honey, so medium. But what about honey? I just looked at some of the health benefits of raw honey. So when you're choosing honey, raw honey is the best. The reason why it's kind of maybe in that so category is that raw honey, and honey is still a form of glucose, right? All carbs are actually. But honey can be a great replacement for other sugars in your diet. I use quite a bit of raw honey. I put honey in, I bake with it. I make my granola bars with raw honey. I use honey in tea. When I had COVID and I had a cough, it was more upper respiratory. I didn't have a real serious cough. But when I consulted a physician, and I was so excited because she was so knowledgeable about nutrition. I was so excited when I talked to this physician. She said one of the best things that I could do was to make respiratory tea and add raw honey and to drink that 2 to 3 times a day, which I did. Respiratory tea with honey and lemon juice. And I can tell you, that was one of my best remedies that I've ever tried for a cough, and it worked. So raw honey contains antioxidants, promotes wound healing, cough remedy, as I talked about. And there's a special form of honey called Manuka honey from New Zealand. And this has multiple medicinal properties. In fact, that's the honey I used when I had COVID, was the Manuka honey. It's pricey, but I felt it was worth the little extra price to get those extra medicinal benefits. And all honey is rich in prebiotics as well. Who would have thought? Honey is a source of prebiotics. So really swamp out your sugar for honey. Another great suggestion for how you can make better choices on your carbohydrate. We don't want you to completely eliminate carbohydrates because then you're eliminating all those good fibers in your diet, right? But if you are choosing a ketogenic diet, probably really critically important for you to start thinking about your microbiome and how to feed that. You know, I talked about the prebiotic fibers. Great addition to your diet if you're on the ketogenic diet. This can be included in your diet. I think there's a really small amount of carbs. I think there's 5 grams in a scoop. First, you want to start with the probiotic, though. These are the live microorganisms. Get those into your gut first. One capsule a day. And this will, be like the seeds in your garden, right? You're going to seed your gut with this. And then, of course, this is going to be like the fertilizers, right? Seeds, fertilizer. So the combination, awesome for your gut. And especially when you are trying to manage your weight and help hunger control, fantastic. I was talking about sourdough bread, and the fact is that sourdough bread in that fermentation process produces something called postbiotics. These are bioactive nutrients, compounds that are produced in the process of fermentation. Well, if you're not consuming sourdough bread, here's another way of getting postbiotics. And this is, let me think. Got them switched. Okay. Prebiotic. Oh, look at that. Did you catch that? Did you all catch that? I got these mixed up when I showed you the first one. They're very similar containers, so you can see why. Prebiotics, right? To feed the probiotics. And this is Daily Wellness from LifeVantage that has a postbiotic in it. It's the key ingredient is called the fermented yeast extract. has tons of great research showing that it promotes the gut lung connection. It's really great for respiratory health. It's great for your gut for people who tend to have more problems with bowel regularity, constipation. There's research showing that this postbiotic can be really good for getting your guts going. Oh boy. Oh, anyway, so that's about, the good carbs. We've talked a little about those in the big iffy, right? That's a good, bad, not necessarily. The best choices in carbohydrates, right? Kind of in the middle. But what about the ugly? And I think we pretty much know what that is. High fructose corn syrup that you find in all of your sugary drinks. That's probably the worst, is high fructose corn syrup. Avoid it at all costs. The fake maple syrup out there, I call it fake maple syrup, is loaded with high fructose corn syrup. Oh my God, bad stuff. Bad for every part of your body, your gut, for diabetes, for glucose management, terrible. But there is a maple syrup that is, I think we would put it in that kind of that middle category, not really good, not really ugly, but kind of in between, and that is pure maple sugar. And 80% of the pure maple sugar is actually tapped and manufactured in Canada, in Quebec, Canada. That's my heritage back there in Quebec, Canada. 80% of it is actually produced there. This one is a USA grade A, which is the top quality. You can see it's from Costco. And then I do use a little bit of this. I actually make some almond cookies where the only sugar in the almond cookies is a quarter cup of this syrup. Isn't that amazing? Very low in refined carbs, 100% almond flour, coconut oil, and dark chocolate chips. So good. See, you can still have a little treat and have nutrition with it too, right? Okay, so that's on the maple syrup. Of course, sugar would be white, table sugar, brown sugar, any of those refined sugars. I would consider in the ugly category. As you can see that not all sugars, well, when you think about added sugars, not all added sugars are all bad. Like we talked about honey actually having some health benefits. So you can substitute honey and maple syrup, for example. And there's some other sugars out there. There's agave syrup sugars. There are some other kind of what I consider that in kind of that middle category. But they're also very pricey. Like these are very expensive. So that I think is what all I have for today. Talking about carbohydrates and weight management, the good, the bad, and the ugly. Talked about sugars. We've talked about how you don't want to cut them all out because you need those really nutrient-dense, high-fiber carbohydrates to fuel your microbiome. We talked about how you can choose these from LifeVantage, these amazing products for your gut that you can add in to your healthy diet, your high-fiber diet. I do these. I do all 3 of these a day. The daily wellness, I might do about every other day, but start with the probiotic, which is to the seeds in your gut, like a seeds in your garden, right? That's going to seed your gut. The prebiotics is going to be the fertilizer, right? And then we have the daily wellness, which is like the compost pile in your garden, right? Also adding in those bioactive nutrients that you get from fermentation. Okay, so I packed a lot of information into this webinar. So get back to the person who invited you to watch this webinar. Get your questions answered. Find out how you can get started with these amazing LifeVantage products for your gut. Get those incorporated into your lifestyle, right? Because that's what we're talking about, right? It's about a lifetime of weight management and a lifestyle.